Welcome to Ken's Sewing Center, and today we're going to talk about the Janome 3160QDC. This is a great machine. Whether you're using it for your everyday sewing or taking it as that travel machine to your retreats in your friend's house, it's going to do everything you need for your sewing. The first thing we want to do is, one of the accessories that comes with your 3160 is an extension table. So of course this accessory tray where you can store all of your extra feet that come with your 3160, this will come off, and then we'll just simply pop up the legs and slide this on, because this gives you all that work surface to your left that you need for it to support your threads. It's beautiful. The first thing we're going to do is wind a bobbin on our QDC, on our 3160. So here, of course, is your bobbin post. We're going to put our thread just under this metal disc. This metal disc is only for bobbin winding, and we're just going to kind of take it like dental floss, make sure you pull it tight. We're going to feed our thread from the center of this bobbin out through one of the holes that are in the side. So here we have, you can see this thread is coming from the center out. And now we're just going to put our bobbin on, and to engage our bobbin winder, push that to the right. And you can notice our display changed, so it is actually showing you that you're ready for bobbin winding, and we're going to step on the foot control and wind our bobbin. Now after so far, you could stop and trim this thread tail and continue winding. You can let it wind until it's completely full or stop at any point. We'll now pop that bobbin winder back to the left, and I'll just use this thread cutter that's on the side. So now we're going to put our bobbin into the bobbin area. We'll open up the bobbin cover, the little black textured area. You just simply pull that to your right, and your bobbin cover pops off. We'll have our bobbin and our thread coming off like the letter P. So here's our thread, so the backbone of the letter P and the round part. You can also think of it as counterclockwise. If you pull that thread, the thread will come off. And we're just going to put that bobbin in and slide that thread, pull it toward the front, and there's a little slot where your thread will fit in, and give it a tug, and now it's in your tension. We're going to leave our bobbin cover off for a second, because now we're going to thread our machine. So we'll take this off of the disc. Remember, that disc is only for bobbin winding. And now you see a series of numbers, of course starting with number 1, which is the first stop of your threading path. You want to take your thread right here and kind of hold this from the right and click it in. Number 2, up around number 3. Your take-up lever is number 4, and you'll go from right to left, and it will fall right in that hook. Come straight down. There is a hook at the top of the needle, and then you do have a needle threader. One thing that I like to do is actually lower my presser foot, and that gives a little more room to manipulate and reach for that thread. So we'll lower this, and you can see here your presser foot lifter is inside what I'll refer to as the belly of your machine. So lower your presser foot, pull your needle threader down, And when you do that, it will actually stay in place. It's put a little wire through the eye of the needle. Just to the left of the needle, you see this gray hook right there. We're going to put that under that hook. And with your right hand, put that thread right up against the needle and back to the back a little bit. See how I have my hand pulling that thread to the back? And that's just assuring that that thread is up against the needle, and so it can grab it as you let it up. Now, as you let it up, as you let that needle thread up, you have to let that thread tail go, or you'll just pull that loop out. So there's our needle threaded. You may want to pull up your bobbin thread, and the easiest way to do that, I know many of us have a habit of reaching for our hand wheel, but we can simply, and probably a little better, use the needle up, needle down position. So we'll touch that once, the needle goes down, touch that twice, it comes back up. I say better than the hand wheel because if you were doing needle down, needle up on your fabric, using that button pierces your fabric perfectly with your needle, the correct amount of force. So get used to using this needle, or try to get used to using this button to raise and lower your needle if need be. We'll now put on our bobbin cover. And before you do that, take a look at your bobbin cover and see that it has all kinds of markings on here. 1/8 of an inch, 3/8, 5/8 inch for your garment sewers. But also in between all those markings, there's a little tick, which of course represents 1/4 of an inch for our quilters, and 1/2 an inch, which is a nice seam allowance also. So we'll simply put this on. Now, everything we're talking about, of course, is in your owner's manual, your instruction book. But we're going to go through so much information. This will be that handy reference when you just need a review on what to do for a technique or a stitch. When you first turn your 3160 on, it does go to straight stitch down the center of the foot, and that's that 00 number, as you can see there. You do have 60 stitches on your 3160. We'll take a piece of fabric, fold it in half, because traditionally we sew on 2 layers of fabric, lower our presser foot, and now stitch. It's ended with the needle up. But you actually can have it end with the needle down by simply doing an extended hold on that needle up down button. And see how now it's ending with your needle down in your fabric. Needle up is actually absolutely fine, but many times when we're stitching and maybe chain piecing or wanting to pivot our fabric down in our needle down in our fabric, and without having to touch that button again, is a great convenience. When you're done and you want to look at what you've stitched, here is a scissor button where it will pull your threads to the back side and cut them. Then we'll simply raise our presser foot, and now look at our stitching. Beautiful stitching. If we look at our display, each time we select a stitch, and we're selecting our stitch using these 2 large numbers, it will automatically select the standard stitch length and width. You, of course, can override that stitch length and width, and you can also see that it's recommending what presser foot to use. So let's just simply go to a simple zigzag stitch. Let's go to, and actually this is a 3-step zigzag, stitch 08. So how are we going to go to stitch 08? You see some arrows, 2 left and right and 2 up and down. The left and right arrows, as I touch it, you are going to see is going to reposition this cursor under the numbers. So here, with the cursor under the 2.2, you could adjust your stitch length. Under the 3.5, it would adjust your width. With these two numbers here, you can now dial or select stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and continue all the way up. But if you said you just wanted to adjust the one number, see how you could easily just have that one highlighted to adjust your 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50. We want to go to number 8. So there's number 8. Again, the stitch length and width tells us what presser foot to use. And let's just use stitch a little bit. And did you notice that the needle was down when I touched the scissor button? So we just did stitch number 8, that 3-step zigzag, and you can see the default stitch length and width. If you wanted to make this stitch a little wider, make that cursor go under the 5.0, and now we can use this up and down arrow to change the width of our stitch. Your 3160 is a 7mm stitch. That's the widest the zig and the zag will go. And so you can see it stopped for us at 7.0. If we wanted these stitches a little closer together, we can use this arrow down to get a little closer. And let's take a look at this. Scissor button and raise our presser foot, and there you can see how closer the 3-step zigzag is and how much wider it is. Now the reason I showed you this is because this 3-step zigzag stitch is beautiful if you make clothesline rope bowls or jelly roll rugs. This is that perfect stitch. And your 3160 can handle the rope bowls, the thickness of the rope, the thickness of your jelly roll rugs with ease. And again, this is a stitch that personally I prefer when I'm joining those rows together, rather than just a traditional zigzag stitch. So let's take a look at some of the other stitches. We have some blanket stitches. Applique folks love doing blanket stitch. So there's stitch number 17 and 18 and 19. Remember, your cursor needs to be under the big numbers that are indicating your stitches. We said that 18 was one of the blanket stitches. So if we moved our cursor just to the left or the 10s, we could just arrow up. And now we're at stitch number 18. So here we have some stabilizer with our fabric. Whenever you're doing a decorative stitch, it is great to use stabilizer because there is so much stitching going on that you need the support of the stabilizer. It's kind of like interfacing when you would do garment sewing. You need the stabilizer. There's a wide variety of different stabilizers depending on what technique or what project you're working on. You can see it is asking for the F foot. And you do get the F foot. And it's not just to make you change a presser foot. There's a reason for using the F foot. We just took the A foot off, and right behind the bar that snaps the foot on is the letter A. But most importantly, when we look on the back side of the A foot, it is perfectly flat, and it's designed for flat stitches. Think of, the straight stitch, the zigzag stitch, those are flat stitches. The minute there is some buildup of thread on your stitches, your 3160 will ask for the F foot. So it's clear so you can see where you're going. The nice red triangle helps point in the direction you want to if you're following a line. But the most important part is on the back side where there is a cutout, like a little divot that will accommodate the buildup of the decorative stitch that you're using. And that will allow it to flow and glide under your foot easily. You can easily just snap your presser foot on, pick your foot up and raise it up. That is one way to put your foot on. We'll talk about another way in a second. So we have some stabilizer, and let's just do some of this blanket stitch. So there's that blanket stitch. And again, remember, you can adjust your length and your width, moving your cursor over. How about if we leave that at that width and go to your length, that's as wide as we can make that. So your 3160 knows when it's at the limit for the stitch that it can go. Let's select another decorative stitch, and let's look at this little scallop, number 20. So we can easily go up to number 20. And since the cursor's under both numbers, this will just count up, and there is 20. Again, we have some stabilizer under our fabric. We have the F foot on because that's what it's asking for, and we'll start stitching. Touch the scissor button and raise our foot. Beautiful scallop stitch, isn't that? And what's a nice thing that you can do with this scallop stitch is whether you're making a clothing or obviously have some that you store-bought, you can actually create this as a beautiful scallop edge all the way around the bottom of a skirt or a pair of pants. You can use it on your home decorating, making pillowcases, and also placemats. So you could actually just stitch this and then trim up really close. But as you can see, when I stopped stitching, I stopped in the middle of a scallop. And you might say, well, I would rather have a complete scallop at the end. So how can we do that? And the answer is this target button. It looks like a target button. We actually call it a tie-off button. So tie off as in tying off or knotting your stitch. But what it also does with respect to a decorative stitch is it will complete the stitch and do no more. So let's start stitching. Now, if you say this next scallop is the last one that you want, you could either touch this target button right now, or even while you are stitching, you can touch the target button. You'll hear it beep. When you hear it beep, just have confidence it will complete that stitch and do no more. So I'll just slow down a little bit. We'll touch the target button. You probably heard the beep. And now it is tying off and came to a complete stop because the target button, the tie-off button, told it to complete the stitch and do no more. So there that is. Beautiful. You do have a great collection of buttonholes on your 3160. And let's make a quick buttonhole. So we're going to go up to stitch number 50. So if we just adjust the 2 up to the 5. Let's pull out our buttonhole foot. The buttonhole foot is in your accessory tray. It does have a place where you can physically put your button in. So it will size your button for your buttonhole for the button that you want to use. So I could stick a bobbin in there. We'll just measure it with my finger. And let's say that that's the size of the button we're using. Again, you would be physically putting your button in there. You can see this is where we're going to snap or attach your foot onto your ankle of your 3160. So we're going to take this off. And so remember, the first time I attached a foot, I just picked the foot up and raised it and snapped it on. The other way, and both ways are correct, is to position your new foot under here and then lower your presser foot. Now you heard it snap, I heard it snap, but I still like to confirm that that foot is on by simply raising the presser foot. We're going to have to raise it anyhow to put our fabric underneath. The last thing we need to do is to pull down a buttonhole lever, and that's what this icon on the screen. It looks like a little piece of, it looks like a piece of plastic with a buttonhole on it. It's up in the belly, in the body of your machine, and it's behind your needle threader. And boom, there that is. It's black in color. So we have some stabilizer. Again, traditionally we are using stabilizer for buttonholes. And your buttonhole is going to go backward as it's being made. Okay. Oh, let me grab my thread tail. Okay. So up until now we've been using our foot control, but you actually have a start-stop button on the face of your 3160. So if you took your 3160 to a retreat or to your friend's house to sew and you forgot your foot control, you actually can still be using and sewing because you have a start-stop button. We have a slide bar here for speed control, and we'll just adjust the speed down a little bit, and let's just start stitching. It beeped, the buttonhole is done. Now the nice thing about using that start-stop button, it will finish it completely. No need to hesitate or think that it's slowing down because you're letting up on your foot control. We'll touch that scissor button, and there's your beautiful buttonhole. That's my thread tail right there from the beginning. Now what was beautiful about this buttonhole, it actually did a running stitch going backward first, then the satin stitch on the left-hand side, ran back on the right-hand side, did the back bar tack, did the right-hand side, and the front bar tack. So both of those sides were made with the stitching in the same direction. So you get a beautiful balanced buttonhole. Now you can simply use a seam ripper. If you're using a seam ripper to open up your buttonholes, put a straight pin there so that you don't just cut through the ends. Or there are other tools like buttonhole chisels that will allow you to open that up easily also. But beautiful. You again have a total of 60 stitches on your 3160, and just experiment and experience all of your stitches. And make a little notebook maybe of all the stitches on your 3160 so you have a ready reference as to what they look like as you're trying to select and create your project. Now your 3160 also comes with a bonus of quilting attachments. So it comes with a free motion foot. Yes, you can do free motion on your 3160. Traditionally, when you do free motion, you drop the feed dogs. And that feed dog lever, if we were to remove our accessory tray, that feed dog lever is back here that you'll drop the feed dogs with. Okay? It also has an open toe foot. So we used the F foot before, but it had a bar in front of it. This is the open toe version. It has a 1/4 inch piecing foot. It has a seam guide that you screw into the base of your throat plate. And it also comes with a walking foot. Your walking foot, the important part of your walking foot is that when you attach this to your machine, this bar needs to be over the needle screw. Let me take this buttonhole foot off for a second, and I can show you what I mean. If we just turn our hand wheel down a little bit, there's that needle screw. So this bar needs to be above the needle screw, so that as your needle goes up and down, your feed dogs on the top will go up and down. You will remove this ankle, what we snapped our feet onto, that gets removed, and your walking foot gets attached right there. But remember, the important part is that this bar is above the needle screw. You also get a quilting guide. A favorite quilting pattern that folks use with their walking foot is a crosshatch, just straight lines intersecting all the way across their project. And when you do a crosshatch, the beauty about using a quilting guide is you can mark your first line and then use your quilting guide from now on to do your spacing evenly. This foot fits into the back of your walking foot, and you actually snap that in. And now you can reposition this. And I seem to be pulling hard, and I am pulling with a good amount of pressure, because obviously you would not want this to move while you're doing your spacing. So it is in there securely and will not move as you're doing your many, many rows of cross-hatching. So your 3160 comes with a great collection of decorative and utility stitches, comes with great accessories, your quilting attachment accessory and the extension table. Also comes with a hard cover. So it's that perfect sewing machine, whether you're going to retreats, to your friend's house to sew, or just staying home and doing all of your sewing. You'll have many, many happy years of sewing on your Janome 3160.